Hello and welcome to another episode of the Non-League Network. This morning we have a fantastic guest called Nick Inge. Nick is a CEO of iTrust, the Speak Up specialist, and I am really delighted in having Nick to explain a little bit about the history of iTrust, why he came up with iTrust, and what iTrust actually does for clubs and communities. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Pat. Thank you for having me on today. Very grateful. Nice to see you again.
And lovely to see you. Now, Nick and I have known each other for a little while, and I am actually pushing iTrust in various different clubs myself because I really believe in the project and what it does. But maybe you could give us an idea of what iTrust actually is, why you came up with it, and the background behind it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just to frame the business in terms of where it's come from and where we are now, and I'll try and keep it short and sweet. So I used to be in the police. I retired, crikey, nearly 7 years ago now. Spent most of my service recruiting informants, criminal whistleblowers. Certainly know James Bond, but that's my background. And I've got two children, Louis, who's 23, and Ellen, who's 25. But Louis played a lot of football from the time he could crawl through to the time he was on the books at Palace and played at various different levels. And as a parent, as a football fan, I stood on the touchline listening to all the nonsense that was going on and being said. But there was no reporting mechanism. And as I was coming up to retirement in the police, I thought that if we can keep criminal whistleblowers safe, how can we do that for any stakeholder within certainly the sporting environment to start with? So I retired from the police in June 2019 and started running a hotline on my mobile phone in October 19 for the football club that Louis used to play for in Maidstone, where I live in Kent. And parents were leaving anonymous messages on my answer machine. I was writing the equivalent of a police intelligence report and sending it into the club. The club loved it. And it was things, for example, like people parking in disability bays when they shouldn't be, coaches not coaching under the ethos of the club, parents, dare I say it, saying things and doing things on the touchline that weren't morally probably wholly acceptable. And because people didn't want to challenge it, they would either walk and take their son or daughter to another club, or the issue would carry on. But at the same time, I've got some friends who I've met through sport and certainly football, who got some very successful businesses. And they said, look, why don't you create a software platform whereby people can not only speak up, but they can suggest a change, they can praise, they can report a health and safety issue, they can have a survey, they can do everything in one place. And there's a lot more to it than this. But basically, we created that software platform because it's far more 21st century than a hotline on a mobile phone. I mean, that's what we did. And since that time, when we started creating the software platform, in early 2020, we scaled from, sole traders having it because they can gift an additional feedback account to a local sports club or charity, through to some very large organisations in the UK and abroad, which I won't go into. But certainly in sport, we're working with clubs in football, cricket, wheelchair rugby league, darts, netball. I mean, not to say you name it, we've got it, but because there's lots of sports out there, but certainly we're in a good place with lots of different sports. So and in terms of the level of sport, we've recently finished a project with the English Football League, and we'll wait to see where they're going to go into the next season. Now we'll be working with Derby County and Wimbledon Football Club, AFC Wimbledon, that is, for fans with disabilities to be able to report stuff before, during, and after the match. So it's working really well in lots of different sports.
Lovely, thank you. I mean, look, it's clearly a passion project for you. It makes sense where it came from in the first place. Obviously, thank you for years of service and career within the police. Since then, was there like a specific moment that you had that you went, well, I need to do something? Was there a specific event that might have happened and that we can relate to going, actually, yeah, that's what I've seen in a sports environment or a football stadium?
I'll tell you what it was. Yeah, it's a great question. It was literally someone parking a disability bay again and again and again because they were, in my humble opinion, too lazy to drive to where they should be parking. They had a very big car and they thought they were going to show it off in front of everyone else. And it was basically, sod you, I'm going to do what I want because I'm part of the club in a management level. In the football club, this is, and I thought that's wrong, and no one was going to challenge it because they were who they were. And if you challenge something as a parent, sometimes what might happen is your son or daughter gets dropped from the team, and then where do you go from there? You can shout and scream as much as you want, but you're a very small cog in a very big machine, and you just go, do you know what? I'm going to walk, and then you'll walk to another. You go to another club, and you'll tell everyone, your friends, and this is what I'm going to do, and they go, all right, well, off you go. But if there's no reporting mechanism, where do you go from there? That's anonymous if you want to be, and I'll go back onto the software. You can choose to be anonymous, and as well as when you send a report, you can send it with any evidence. So you could take a picture of the registration number of that car. You could send it on the PDF straight into the chairman or chairperson of the club, and they could do something about it. If they don't do something about it, you're going to think, what's a waste of time? So that's the model we took, and it worked really well, because what happened was the parents, who are generally the stakeholders putting the reports in, had a voice. And what it means is, and what it meant at the time, this is a few years ago, obviously, it meant that they were more likely to call out the people doing the stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And it was a preventative mechanism that stops them doing it, because they know they're going to get reported. So they didn't do it. So it was a win-win. Right. And then what happens is it attracts parents and players to the club because they know they've got a voice, and it stops, like I say, the idiots doing the stuff they shouldn't be doing. So it's a win-win for everyone. Then the club gets a great reputation, or a better reputation, and why wouldn't they have it? I mean, as well as the model that we work to now, and this has evolved over the years, is that grassroots sports clubs generally haven't got a lot of money, if any, right? And what they might want to do is prioritise it on kit, other stuff's going on in the club. Yeah. What we've done now is, over the years, evolved this iTrust model into a buy one, gift one free. So a local company would have it as a feedback platform for their own stakeholders, staff, customers, whatever, and then they were able to gift an additional account to a local sports club and charity and get the ESG, CSR and the marketing out of it. And that's another winner for everyone. And I don't know of any other company doing that in terms of what we're doing, because everyone should have a voice in whatever background they're in terms of sport or business or whatever. They should be able to have a voice and speak up about not just about the bad stuff, but about the good stuff as well, and just feel that they've got this ability to go, I can suggest something from organisation, whether it's a sports club or, like I say, business, 24/7, 365, anywhere in the world. I could be a sports I could be the parent of a son and daughter. I'll go and play. We go and play away another fixture. They might be doing something in another club that could be great for our club. Do you know what? I can scan the QR code because I shortcut it to my phone and send a report, and everyone wins. Then it's about everyone rising together, and that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. Why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's a lot of times when you go and watch a football match. I went to a football match recently, a few months ago, when someone was kicking off, actually someone I happen to know, and they were kicking off in the audience, and there wasn't really an easy way for me to report that in that particular environment, because they didn't have iTrust. And it wasn't a situation where I felt comfortable myself to go, oi, Stuart, to come over here, because I didn't want to attract attention to myself. I'm not going to put something like that on Trustpilot. Plus, who am I meant to be emailing or contacting? And that's not always that obvious and clear when you're talking to various different sports or venues. By the way, this is not just sports, it's for venues or anything, businesses you mentioned as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also as well, when I used to do it in the police, and I do it now when we do onboarding presentations, not to every single audience, but to the right audience. I say to them, and this is my old world, put your hand up if you've ever been a grassroots snitch, right? Well, shock horror, not many people do in the audience. And if someone bravely puts their hand up, like in a football environment, certainly, if you're going to try and call someone out, people are going to try and, what the repercussions are going to be, verbally sometimes, and sadly physically on other occasions. But when I do the onboarding presentations to people, some people put their hand up, like I say, everyone looks them in the room, and then I say, oh, thank you very much, whoever it is, for bravely putting your hand up. Would you like to share your story? Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And those that do, everyone looks at them and goes, oh, you're the one who's grassed up so and so. I said, yeah, well, hold on a minute. With all due respect, if that person hadn't put their hand up and called that person out, you could potentially be out of a job, because that whole business could be folding. And with all due respect as well, you're probably not telling the complete truth, because at some point in your life, you probably have grassed up your siblings to your parents when you're younger. But as you get older, but as you get older, you're less likely to do it in business or anywhere, because you might have a tendency to think that you might get overlooked for promotion or miss that course or get made redundant because you're one that can't be trusted. But and I can give you a million and one examples, and you're probably aware of them as well, Pat, in the media, where people haven't called stuff out, and the problem has got so bad that either the business has failed, and more importantly, there's been a victim of bullying or sexual harassment or racism at the end of it, and whatever consequence happens, and because everyone just did that and blindly carried on without actually saying something, because there was no network, there was no mechanism to report stuff, and or they didn't have the ability to be anonymous if they wanted to be, and that's big. It's a big societal problem still. sadly ongoing now. But if we're doing our little part to help change that, then that's
Well,
all we
I
can
think
do.
you touched on something there, Nick, and I think one of my next questions is obviously going to be about society, because society has changed, and some of the differences from when I was the age that my daughters are now, and what was acceptable in and around a sports pitch, in what was acceptable in terms of language, in terms of behaviour, in terms of literally the interference with referees and things like that, just shouldn't be. It shouldn't have been right in the first place, but it's probably less and less acceptable now. But you've got a lot more rights and elements within the society that are now being heard and being listened to. You've got LGBT rights. You've got a lot more, you got the speak up movement that we're getting involved. You've got the kick it out. You've got the her game too. You've got all sorts of different elements within the business. You've got send preoccupations for business, for sports clubs. Are you finding that there's still a lot of sort of pushing back against what you've got with iTrust in the club? So maybe someone in the club is going, yes, we want this, but then maybe others are going, that's not great. Or are you seeing the benefits are literally outweighing it for the club directors, for example?
Well, it's funny what you said about different attitudes at different age groups. I find the older generation are less likely to embrace it because they've gone, do you know what? We've always done it like this. We're never going to change. Yeah, but that's the reason why you should change, because there are issues going on that you don't want to know about or haven't been reported, right? The younger generation definitely see it through a different set of eyes. So my children in their 20s now, they see life through a different way than I did, and brilliant. I'm so glad that that's the case as well. Certainly, like I say, grassroots sports clubs would prioritise their money, not all the time, but generally on other things. They don't see the value of having this open, healthy speak up culture, and then all the benefits that comes from it, like sponsors being attracted to it because it's seen as an organisation that's open, honest and transparent. And they're very unlikely to come and have their bottom bit by issues that suddenly hit the press for the wrong reason. But certainly old school, I won't name the sports, but people can generally guess where you have, well, I will say it, male, stale, pale, people at the top of the sport who generally don't want to change. And I do find that frustrating, but that is life. And we've got plenty clients who do embrace it for the right reasons. And when they get it, they do understand it. And that's a bit ridiculous to say sometimes, but because it's an innovative product and there is no one else in the world doing what they're doing, it takes a bit of time for them to get their head around the fact that what we've done is different. It's not a compliance system in its traditional sense. It's not a whistleblowing hotline in its traditional sense. It's not a suggestion box in its traditional sense. It's all of these things. It's not TripAdvisor. It's everything in one place. And they've got to then, I suppose, one of the challenges is for me to find these people in the first place, which is not too difficult to be fair, but then they've then got to find the time to then get to understand it, because they're very busy people, and we all are. So it's finding the people, finding the clubs, finding the people, and finding the time, and then convincing them that they should have to do it. But then for me, we've got a product that goes across every business across the world, so we're not in a bad place. So you can see the market's market's massive for us in all sorts of sports, and that's why we're not. And that sounds a bit, it certainly isn't that at all. But it's we're in a good place.
Well, I think when you relate that to business, what I'm seeing with something like iTrust is one of the worst things for a business is for a business not to be aware of what the hell's going on within its business. And then if you suddenly have a big disaster, I mean, a PR disaster of someone is doing something they shouldn't be doing, and actually other people knew about it, but they didn't speak up, the whole company could potentially fold. I mean, you're looking at some of all you need to do is to look at some of the sports people who were associated to brands, and then all of a sudden their behavior of these very famous sports people comes out. The brands, they're affected. They're automatically going to be affected by the backlash of this PR. Everything that will go alongside of it is going to be an issue. Now, if you can be aware, and information is key here, if you can be aware of as club of any problems that are going, and anything positive as well, because there's two elements. When you're looking at, I'm looking at this as a commercial side. On a commercial side, one, you need to know what's going on so you can fix it and you can manage it, and you can be aware of it just in case there's a problem. But also, two, if there's something that's really good and you've got some really good members of staff who are doing some incredible work, if you don't notice it, other people will notice it. And this is where people will go onto a bit of club and you're going, oh no, we're a small club. How on earth could we have done this? This bigger club has come in and poached our member staff, and go, well, what have you actually done to recognize that person? Oh, we didn't know what they were up to. Well, there you go. And it's a little bit like that. It works both ways.
Yeah, and certainly grassroots sports level, you know, the vast majority of work that goes on is unpaid and by volunteers. And they get a lot of criticism for a lot of the time by people who don't put anything into the system. They'll stand on the touchline, you know, gripe and moan about whatever. But those people who are unsung heroes who never get that credit because literally they're giving up their time for nothing monetarily in terms of reward, why wouldn't they get a bit of praise? Well, they should be getting a massive amount of praise, but going over and above, you know, just their lives in terms of work and whatever, it's a massive part of what people are about. This system we've created it's not about the criticism, it's about the praise and the suggestions and the positives. And the vast majority report that our clients get about the praise and the positives. Why wouldn't it be like that? Because 99.9% of the population and are lovely people and they want to do the best for their sports club or organisation that they work for. So yeah, this is not about the negative. It like I said earlier, it prevents the people, helps prevent the people doing the bad stuff. But 9 times out of 10, it's about the positive and the praise.
Brilliant. Nick, where can people find out about you? Obviously, people can always talk to me about the various different people, the various different products and services that I talk to. I work very heavily with you with iTrust. How do people find out about you? How can they contact you and find out a little bit more? Maybe you could come in and talk to their federation, organization, club, business, and explain a little bit more to them directly.
Yeah, thank you. Well, there's three different ways. If they looked up Nick Inge on LinkedIn or just Google, you know, I've got an ugly mugshot that stands out on Google sometimes. So yeah, via LinkedIn is a good way. We've got the website, theiTrustApp.com. And if they'd like to email the business directly, it's heretohelp@theiTrustApp.com. So there's 3 ways there. So yeah, if you just Google iTrust, we come to the top of the rankings in the UK, certainly, which I'm very proud.
No worries. It will also be on all our media for the Non-League Network. Also on the website, of course. The idea of the website for the Non-League Network is to put together clubs and players and all products and services together so they can all find each other quite easily. But having something like the iTrust app is going to be very helpful, I think, across the board. Thank you, Nick. Listen, there are various different events that you've got going on as well, so do keep in contact with us at the Non-League Network. Like everyone else, this is a community element. So there are feeds within the Non-League Network. So Nick is able to put in some feeds in there. He's got some podcast elements that he do. He's got some events that he can be making people aware of. Any developments of iTrust with various sporting organizations can go on there. The same for anyone who wants to talk to Nick. They can always contact me or anyone else at Non-League Network if they can't get hold of Nick directly. Thank you for your time this morning. By the time people watch it, it's probably evening time. I don't know why I say it like that. And then, Nick, congratulations on having built something so really helpful for the community and for football and sports as a whole. Congratulations and good luck. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Very kind. Thank you, Pat. Cheers.